Hi friends, welcome to WebChamp. In this video, I'm going to discuss what is the deployment pipeline in Microsoft Fabric. Okay, so you can deploy meaning you can create a deployment pipeline for Power BI items also if you are a Power BI user, or if you are a Fabric user, meaning you are using Fabric Fabric license or Fabric capacity for your business intelligence. Then you can create the deployment pipeline. But where to create, how to create, and for what purpose we have to create, and then what is the limitations of it, we have to discuss in this video. So here, if you come on the, or if you log into the Power BI service homepage, here you find the list of pinned items, but by default, the deployment pipeline option is not pinned. So if you click on this ellipsis, here you will see something called deployment pipeline. If I click on this, so gives me the options to create a new pipeline. Okay. So what is a deployment pipeline? So deployment pipeline tool it is a tool that provides the content creator with the production environment, meaning those who are building reports, those who are creating kind of contents or fabric items. Obviously, they are under the development phase, and though that is not finalized, so it may take a time to finish and all. So lots of things are there considered at the time of development. So to make that development phase separate and production phase separate, this deployment pipeline is, or it can be created, right? The deployment pipeline enables creator to develop, then test the content in the service before it reaches to the user. Meaning what he will do, developer will develop the report, then it will go to the next phase for the test, and once the report is tested, then report should go to the production phase, from where it is published to the all your audiences, right? So this should be the life cycle of business intelligence report development. So I given here the list of items that are supported in the pipeline deployment. So here, first of all, data pipelines, then data flows generation 1, generation 2, both are supported there. Data marts, then lakehouse, notebooks, paginated reports, then Power BI reports, then Spark environment and semantic model, even warehouse. All these items are supported. Okay. Then what is the pipeline structure? Now let's understood this. What is the pipeline structure? Even if you go here, you will be able to see this. I mean, how it should go. Okay, structure is different. Then this is a flow. First of all, you should create a new pipeline. Then you should assign the workspaces. But okay, then once you assign the workspaces, then develop your content and test, and then share with users. So this is the phases of your pipeline. But how pipeline structure works? So first of all, let's create the pipelines. Okay, I will go and I will say new pipeline, and here I will say this is a sample. This name is sufficient. Okay, here you can add as per the your pipeline purpose. You can add the description here. Then once you say, meaning if I give the name here as a sample, then if I add some kind of description, okay, this is optional, you can add. Then when I click on this next, so by default there are three phases or three stages, I can say. So first one is development, then test, and then production. If you want to add more stages to your reports, you will be able to add any number of stages. You can define you and then so I here by default I will use these three. These three must be a requirement, meaning this is a minimum requirement. At least you should have. You can have two also. That is even fine. Test and then your development and production. You can have any number of stages, but it should be more than one. Then I will say create pipeline. Okay. Here, what I did is I have created a pipeline, and this is the pipeline structure, my deployment pipeline structure. Right. So development, in the development phase, what you will do. So this is a first phase in pipeline. Here, you will upload your new content with your, meaning the whichever the person who is creating, they will publish the reports there. They will create the fabric items there in the development. Okay. Then you can design, build, and develop whatever the changes you want to make here with the sample data. You can go and make the changes, right? Or in different stage also, meaning you can perform the development here or in next stage also, so as per your wishes. After you make all the needed changes to your content, you are ready to enter the stage called test, right? So here what you will do, upload the modified content so that it can be removed, sorry, it can be moved to this test stage, meaning once you upload your content, modified content, and the development, then it will go to, or you can move this to this test stage. So here there are three examples of what can be done in the test environment. So share content with testers and reviewers. At beginning, what you will do is you will, after the development, you will share the content uh, to that specific workspace, meaning that stage. Okay, so we will go through the stages. So at the test stage, or at the stage tester step, then you will load and run the test with the large volume of data. So at the time of development, it is not necessary to use the entire data set, meaning let's say you are building a report for 10 years plus data. So at the time of development, you should not use this. So you can take the sample data of 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then you are good to perform. Or you can take the sample data of 6 months. But at the time of testing, what you can do is you can load the full data. Obviously, because you are going to test the report, so it should test, or test should happen on the entire data set. So that is better to avoid the further issues in report. Then test your app to see how it looks for your end user, meaning apps can be created for the test stage also, and then that can be tested how it looks for the end users. Meaning the obviously tester will do this, or reviewer will do this, and if that gets approved, then you will move your content to the production. So here in production stage, what you will do, you will share the final version of your content with business users across the organization. So this is the pipeline structure. This is the pipeline structure. So now, obviously, you have created a pipeline, but how content will move, right? Right. So here, what I will do is initially for the testing purpose, before creating a content, meaning see, everywhere you need to assign the workspace. So I will go and I will select, this is developed. This is what the workspace I would like to assign to this stage, right? Then again, here I will go and I will assign the workspace. Fine. And again, here I will go and I can assign the workspace. This is my production workspace, meaning this workspace, this last production stage workspace, I will give access to all the business users to this workspace. For this test, I will give access to the reviewers only. I will give access to the testers only. And for this developer or development phase, here for the developer workspace, what I will do, I will give access to all the developers. So here for the testing purpose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to uh, share, or I can say that, okay, this is not, okay, I'm going to publish this report. This is a sample report. Or instead of this, what I can do is I can use this not test and then say this. Okay, this is what you and I don't want. Okay, let me go to my data sets, right? And here, let me say this is my sales report, online sales report. Okay. Okay, fine. And this is like new. Right. I will publish this report to my development workers because just imagine that I have developed this report. And for testing purpose, what I did is, let's say I used this connection to whatever the connection I used here. You can go and go to the data source setting. So this is what the SQL Server connection I used in my report. I'm going to publish this report. Okay. So I will publish this. Obviously, this is what developed and not tested. So I will publish this on the develop workspace. It takes a while to publish the report. Once this gets published, okay, fine. Then if I say this, okay, so here if I come, so you can see that there is a one semantic model. Okay, it should show me the report also, because I published the report and two items. Okay, so now here I have two different items. One is report and another one is semantic model. So now if I go to the pipeline, sample pipeline, so what it will does, it will automatically compares the item between two workspaces. Okay, even there is an option. If I say compare, so it shows there is a two new items added to this. Even what type of item has added, if you want to see what type of or any number of items, count of items, type of item and count of items, you will be able to see here. So I'm going to see this number for, okay, one is semantic model, another one is report, right? So this is what I have. This is what I have. And automatically when I click on this deploy, it will publish all, or it will copy all my content from this to this stage, right? So here item pairing works differently, meaning it is a process by which an item, meaning report, dashboard, or semantic model in one stage of the deployment pipeline is associated with the same item in adjacent stage, right? This is just a pairing, but in this, pairing will happen automatically after it gets paired, meaning if I deploy and if the model name is something that sales report, I may want to change it, right? So I can change that here, but once the items gets paired automatically, it will not affect, meaning renaming of item is not going to affect. So you can rename that also. So we will see that part also. Pairing occurs when you assign workspace to a deployment stage, or when you deploy new unpaired content from one stage to another. A clean deployment, meaning see here the clean deployment is nothing but here I don't have in target. This is my target workspace, right? Test is my target workspace. So in target workspace, I don't have anything, any content, right? So this is the clean deployment. Whatever I will push, it will be updated there, right? So it is important to understand how pairing works, right? So when items are copied, whether they are overwritten, or when a deployment fails using the deploy function. So this is the function of that. You do not need to write the function. You just have to click on this. It will call the deploy function, right? So how it works, let's understood. If items aren't paired, even if they appears to be same, meaning the report name or semantic model name is same, okay, type and its folder, everything is same, but they are not paired, then they don't override an deployment, right? Meaning if I deploy this, okay, if I deploy this report or this semantic model to this test, and if this is unpaired, automatically it will maintain the pairing, but somehow let's say that gets unpaired, so you will not be able to override the that item in this next stage of deployment. So paired items appears on the same line in the pipeline content list. So okay, where is the pipeline content list? Okay, this is something to manage the access to this pipeline. Okay, so even workspace contributor, if anybody has contribute option, minimum contribute option, they need to work with or to perform the deployment, right? So here items that are paired remains paired even if they're even if you change their names. As I said, the renaming of items is not going to affect the pairing. Items added after the workspace is assigned to pipeline aren't automatically paired, okay, meaning, so here first what I did is I assigned workspaces, right? So if any item, so at the time of assigning, okay, at the time of assigning the workspaces, if the content is available in that workspace, it will get automatically assigned. But if it is not, meaning after the assignment of workspaces, if you add the new content to the development phase, it is not going to meaning the pairing is not going to happening automatically. This is what it does mean. So what you can do, you can have the identical items in adjacent workspace that aren't paired. So this is possible. So you not to worry, but just remember that if you publish the items in the deployment, and if you deploy the items to the adjacent stage, that will get automatically paired. So this is not going to affect much. So what is the deployment method? How to deploy the item, right? So here you can see that I can say if I click on the deploy, so here by default it is deploying for all. So you are about to deploy from deployment to test the items that are going to deploy here. And if you want to add note for the deployment, you can add, and then continue deployment in case one or more items fail. So this is what if you want to do, you can do. Otherwise, you can deselect this as per your requirement. I started this. Okay, what I did, I started deploying the content. Meaning from development to test phase, I'm moving my or I'm copying my content. So this will take a while. Okay, now you can see that this green mark shows that no changes were made to the content since the last deployment, meaning whatever I have performed a deployment at this stage, okay, is same with the test every time. If I add new data, it again it will comes to this icon, this cross mark, and also this is not in sync. This means not in sync. This means your two workspaces or two stages are in sync. So now I have one report and one semantic model here also, right? So this is how you can perform the deployment process. So deployment can be a full deployment, selective deployment, or backward deployment. Backward deployment is currently only possible when the target stage is empty. Meaning backward meaning, let's say you are deploying the content from test to development. In that case, if your development stage is completely empty, in that case, it is possible. Otherwise, that is not possible. But yes, full deployment. See here, if I go and if I select the deploy, okay, cancel. So here, show less, show more, and we will have option. Okay, so the to select the items, to select the items. Okay, fine. So let me refresh this once again. So at the time of a deployment, so by default it is deploying all the items. Here I have only one type of item. Maybe because of that I'm not getting option what to deploy, what to not deploy. But if I add the data flow, if I add the other kind of fabric items which are supported for the deployment pipeline, so that can at that time it may show me to select the items. Okay, so that is possible. You can make the selection of the items what you want to deploy to the next stage. That is even possible, right? So deploying content might take a while, so it depends upon the number of items being deployed. During this time you can navigate to other pages in the portal. It is not going to affect, meaning the way you publish, you start exporting the data, or you are just trying to download the Power BI report, and then once you click on this download PBIX file, then you will be able to navigate to the report. So you can do the same. Even deployment can be done using the REST APIs. That is different. Okay, but this whatever we are discussing here is pretty much simple as compared to REST APIs. Okay, then what is the deployment process and auto binding? So here, when content from source stage to target stage, meaning here, first of all, this is my source stage, development is my source stage, and test is my target stage. Then when I start deploying from test to production, production is my target stage, test is my source stage. This is how it works. To identify which content items needs to be overridden. Okay. Deployment pipeline uses the connection between the parent item and its clone. Okay. So this connection is kept obviously when new content is created, and then override the operation only override the content of item. So item ID, URL, permission remains unchanged. This is not going to affect. This is not going to change. Only going to change is content. Then there is something called auto binding. So in Fabric, when items are connected, obviously, so what does it mean by connected and all? So if I come to the develop, okay, so here if you see, this report is connected to my semantic model, right? This report is connected to my semantic model. So this is nothing but auto. This is binded, meaning binding is already there, right? So if I copy the content from this, if I copy the content from one step to another step, so this their binding will be meaning retained there as it is. So it is not going to affect. So a semantic model can be depends on the another semantic model, and can also be connected to the several reports that depends on it. If there is a connection between two items, or deployment pipeline always try to maintain this connection. So this is what the meaning of auto binding. So how auto binding works in the same workspace. So here you will be able to see that linked item exists in the target stage, and linked item does not exist in the target stage. So what will happen? Meaning, see, if I here I deployed both the items, right? So let's say here I deployed only the report. I am not going to deploy the semantic model. In that case, what is going to happen? So obviously, when we deploy both, so this is good. Deployment pipelines automatically connect or auto bind the deployed items to the item it depends on in the deployed stage. This is fine. But how it works when the meaning linked item is not exist? So deployment pipeline fails a deployment if an item has dependency on another item and the item providing the data isn't deployed. Meaning, if I try to publish the report only instead of semantic model, it will fail. This deployment will fail. This is what it tells me. Right. So auto binding works only with the items that are supported by the deployment pipeline and resides in Fabric. Okay. Even auto binding across workspace, we can have multiple pipelines, right? And you have two pipelines. Just consider pipeline A is for the semantic model, pipeline B is for the report. Okay. And if your semantic model is setting in development stage of pipeline A, and if you have a report that is setting in development pipeline, pipeline B, development stage of pipeline B. So this is automatically binded. So if I publish this report, so meaning if I deploy the report to the next stage, to the test stage, and if the same semantic model is not available, if it is available, it will get automatically binded. But if it is not available, now your deployment will get failed. So this is what the auto binding across the workspaces. Then how to create a deployment rule? Okay, so this is fine. This is fine. So what you can do in deployment rule? Okay, let's discuss this. So what is deployment rule and all? Fine. So when you are working with the deployment pipeline, different stages might have different configuration. This is fine. As I said, for the testing purpose, what you can do is you can use the sample data, small set of data you can use, or maybe you can use the test database. This is even fine, right? Then in test, you need to fetch the full data, so you can connect it to the production version of your database, right? So this is what you can do. So here, for example, if I have to define the deployment rule, so I have to go and click on this kind of setting icon and all. This icon, if you click, so this is the item. So here you will be able to see the items which are supported for the supported to define the deployment rules. So as I said, the development stage might query sample data from the database, while test and production stage query the entire database. Right. So when you deploy content between two pipeline stages, content between pipeline stages, not two, okay, between two stages. So you can configure the deployment rules to change the content while keeping some setting intact. You can define a rule for the semantic model in a production stage to point to a production database instead of one that is used in test. That is also fine. Even for the testing purpose, we can have another set of data, and then in the production, we will load the actual data. This is what we can do. The rule is defined in the production stage under the appropriate semantic model, right? So I will come here. Even you can see that I don't have any model here. So if I go here, it is not going to allow me. So now just consider that my testing is validated and then I'm good. Okay, earlier there was an option to select these items, but now I'm not seeing how to select the individual items. Maybe they are relevant, that's why. Okay, that could be the possibility. If I add one more items to this, then that may be a possible that it may show me. Okay, so it is asking me to go to the production, go to the workspace. I am not going there. Okay, my pipeline is completely in sync. You can see this is in green, meaning whatever the content I have in development, the same content I have in production also. That is fine. But here, let's say I want to change the data source. So here you can define the data source rule. So you can add the data source rule. So here from choose. So this is what the used earlier. From this, I would like to select the other. You can enter the other connection string, then credentials, whatever the needed. and then you can define. Even you can, if your data, meaning, okay, the data, or if your semantic model has the parameters created at the time of loading the data, right? So you can define the rules for the parameters also. So though I'm not using any parameter, this option is not enabled for me. I'm just saving it. Okay. So here, the rule defined in the production stage under the appropriate semantic model. Once the rule is defined, the content deployed from test to production inherits the value as defined in the development rule. Okay. Sorry, deployment rule. This rule always apply as long as it's unchanged and valid. Meaning the rule you can, meaning you can just define the new credentials if you want to use in the production. That's it. Otherwise, everything is going to same. If you want to modify the parameter, you will be able to modify the parameters. Right. Then how it works? So let's say item type is data flow. So data source rule, parameter rule, and default lakehouse rule. You cannot define this for any of the item except the notebook. So default lakehouse is just defined for the notebook purpose. Right. For other items, data flow. Then semantic model supports two parameterization and source string data source rule. Then data mart supports two, right? So data source and parameter rule. Paginated report supports only data source rule. This is not going to support for the parameter rule, and this is not going to give support for the lake house rule. So the description or details you can read here, right? So how to create? So we just saw how to create. I discussed how to change this data source rules. Then data source rule. What is data source? From data source list. So whatever the data sources you have used in the report, so only that will be listed there. It is not going to give you the other kind of option. Okay. Select the data source name to be updated, and one of the following methods to select a value to replace the one from source stage. Okay. Select from a list, or select other and manually add a new data source. Right. So this is what you can do. You can only, meaning if you are already using Excel for the testing purpose, and now if you want to use the credentials and connection strings, that is also possible. Parameter rules. If you have a parameter, select a parameter. Meaning if it is you are using parameter while querying the data. In that case only it will show the parameters list. It will, by default, it will show the current value, but you can edit that value. So default lakehouse. This rule only apply to the notebook. If you are using Synapse notebook, select the lakehouse to connect to a notebook in the target stage, and then set it as a default. So this is what you can do. A lake house to connect to notebook in the target stage. This is what you can do. Meaning for the lake house only, you will be able to make the changes uh, in the notebook, right? So these are the supported data sources for data flow and semantic model rules. So Azure Analysis Service, Synapse, then SQL Server Analysis Service, SQL Server, Azure SQL Server, OData Feeds, Oracle, and then SAP HANA, SharePoint, and Teradata. So these are the items that can be supported for the rules. Okay, what is the limitations for the data pipeline? To create a deployment rule, you must be the owner of the item that you are creating a rule for. This is what the first limitation. Then for the deployment rule, I mean, it can be, deployment rule can't be created in the development stage. You cannot create. Okay, when an item is removed or deleted, its rules are deleted too. This is limited. These rules can't be restored. When you unassign and reassign workspace to reestablish a connection, rules for that workspaces are lost. Meaning, okay, assignment and unassignment. Okay, how I can assignment we saw, right? But how to unassign? This is what. So for this stage, if I go to the edit, okay, assignment and unassignment, there is a option. Not this. Here. Okay. So if I click on this, here I will be able to unassign the workspace. First of all, we did assignment. Now I'm doing unassignment. So I can unassign whatever the workspace assigned to this stage, I can change it. Right. Then you can access the workspace, meaning you can manage the workspace accesses and then workspace setting from here. If you want to refresh the semantic model, you will be able to refresh the semantic model in any of the phase, meaning in the testing phase, in the development phase, or in the production phase. And obviously, you should not use the meaning tester should not test the data before refreshing the semantic model. So even developer test the data on sample, and it may get read the full data in the test. So it is necessary to refresh the semantic model in testing or before using in production. That is required, right? Then if your data source or parameter defined in a rule is changed or removed from the item, it points to in the source stage, the rule isn't valid anymore. Means this, what are the different types of limitations for the rules? You will be able to see. After you deploy a paginated report with the data source rule, you can't open the report using Power BI report builder. So this is again another limitation. Next limitation is deployment rule only takes effect in the next time you deploy to that stage. However, if you create a rule and then compare the stage before you deploy, comparison is done based on the rule that is were created, even though they don't take effect. Okay. So meaning what it's tell me that I defined a rule here. Okay, I defined rule. I defined a rule here. Until and unless I perform the next deployment, this rule is not going to take any effect. This is what it means. Then following scenarios are not supported. Data source rules for the data flow that have other data flow as a data source, meaning one data flow can be used as a data source for the another. So in that case, the data source rules are not supported. Then data source for rules for common data model folder in data flow, this is not going to support. Data source rule for semantic model that uses data flow as their data source, even this is also not supported. Okay, so these are the limitations. Then creating data source rule on the semantic model that uses native query or direct query, this is not even going to work. Parameter rules aren't supported for the paginated report. This is fine. We already discussed in that snippet. Adding data source rule for semantic model and data flow on data source, which are parameterized. Meaning you cannot have the data source rules for the parameterized semantic model and data flows. This is what it tells me. Okay, so this is about the deployment pipeline. So I hope you will enjoy the deployment journey in professional way. I hope you like the content of this video. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please do not forget to subscribe, webchamp, and share the content with your friends.